We made it to Election Day. A look back at how we got here. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Going beyond the headlines.
Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
It's been a long and winding road to the grand finale of Election 45. And if you think back to how we got to this point, you could make the case that the starting line for it all was November 5th of last year and Election Day in the United States.
It is now official. CNN projects that Donald Trump has been elected president, defeating Vice President Kamala Harris and making a political comeback unlike any in modern American politics. Now, we can make this projection now because CNN projects that Donald Trump has won Wisconsin. You can see right there, currently ahead by 30,000 votes with 99%.
Trump wins. And here on this election day in Canada, Trump still looms large. Trump posted on social media this morning about wanting to make Canada the 51st state, saying it was meant to be. But in our journey, the next key date on the calendar was December 16th of last year. That was the day when the then Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, was supposed to stand up in the House of Commons and read the government's fall economic statement, but that never happened. Instead, Freeland sent a blistering letter to Prime Minister Trudeau saying she would be resigning from cabinet, saying she couldn't support Trudeau's costly political gimmicks given the Trump threat. Her resignation also came after news reports that said Freeland was going to be replaced as finance minister by Mark Carney. For many veteran political observers like Peter Donolo, that marked the beginning of the end for Justin Trudeau.
I think this absolutely destabilizes the government. I think if there were a vote tomorrow in the House, and there won't be because the House is recessing, the government will probably fall. I think he's going to be facing a Liberal caucus today that is more than shaken. Liberal caucus has been shaken for more than a year now. I think we're beyond the being shaken part to the part where, there's going to be open rebellion. So I have a hard time, to be honest, seeing how the Prime Minister actually survives this.
After the Freeland news, Ottawa went quiet, and so did Justin Trudeau. Parliament broke for the holidays, and Mr. Trudeau canceled all of his year-end interviews and went skiing. Christmas came and went. New Year's came and went. But then January 6th arrived, and Justin Trudeau finally emerged from Rideau Cottage to announce he was resigning.
Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process.
And with that, the race to replace was on. And Mark Carney was in. That was no surprise. Since just a week after Trudeau announced his resignation, Mark Carney was on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
And you are of the Liberal Party?
I am of the Liberal Party, yes.
Are they looking for a new leader?
I think they might be, John.
Sir, may I recommend to you, with your charm and debonair wit, yet strong financial backbone, that you offer yourself have you offered yourself as leader?
I just started thinking about it when you brought it up.
Just now?
Yeah, just now.
Carney cruised to victory in the Liberal leadership race, securing 86% of the vote. That happened March 9th, and then exactly 2 weeks later, Prime Minister Mark Carney met the Governor General at Rideau Hall, and the election campaign was underway.
2 months ago, I was at a rink in Edmonton where I'd learned to play hockey. And that's about as far as you can get from the grandeur of Rideau Hall. And I was there because I was putting up my hand to run for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada. And I was doing that because I knew our country needed to take action.
When the Liberal leadership race started, the Conservatives were still above 40% in the polls and ahead by the Liberals by about 10 points. By the time the Liberal leadership race was over, the Conservative lead was down to 5 points, and by the time the election campaign started, the Conservatives' lead in the polls was gone. And all the while, in the United States, Donald Trump kept threatening to hit Canada with tariffs and kept expressing his desire to see Canada become the 51st state.
If people wanted to play the game right, it would be 100% certain that they'd become a state. But a lot of people don't like to play the game because they don't have a threshold of pain. And there would be some pain, but not a lot. The pain would be really theirs.
By early April, the Conservative lead in the polls had evaporated, and it's since been the Liberals in the lead ever since. That's when cracks started to emerge on the Conservative side, with high-profile Conservatives calling out the management of the Conservative election campaign and forcing Pierre Poilievre to defend his decision to focus so much on the Liberal record and maybe not enough on Donald Trump.
Some people have said that I should stop talking about the doubling housing costs that have denied an entire generation the chance to own a home after the lost Liberal decade. They say that we shouldn't be debating why single moms are lined up at food banks in record numbers after the lost Liberal decade. They suggest that we shouldn't debate why 50,000 of our citizens have lost their lives to drug overdoses under the radical Liberal drug policies. That we should just forget that after the lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime and a falling economy under America's thumb, that we should just ignore all of those things. I disagree.
Yes, it has been a long and winding road, and there have been bumps in that road for the other parties, too. Lots of questions about how well the NDP will do tonight, how well the Bloc will do in Quebec. But one thing is certain, the last 5 months in Canadian politics have been anything but boring. One way or another, history will be made tonight. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
The death toll in Vancouver remains at 11 after a car drove into a crowd at a Filipino street party in central Vancouver Saturday night. The suspected driver, 30-year-old Adam Lowe, has been charged with multiple counts of murder. Vancouver police have so far not given any motive for the crime, though Mr. Lowe is believed to have suffered from mental health problems in the past and has had many interactions with police. We get more from Jack Rabb of City News Vancouver.
This is the darkest day in our city's history. Last night, as thousands of members of Vancouver's Filipino community gathered for an important cultural celebration, the actions of a single person shattered our collective sense of safety.
Bodies were strewn in the street as waves of first responders rushed to the scene. Families of those in attendance scrambling to get in touch with their loved ones, while some went after the suspect.
Me and Talilo were running towards where the incident happened, and then I saw the car that did it, the dark SUV, and the door opened up. And so I started running that way. And there were these two guys that chased him. He got punched one time, but the security and one of the organizers and someone else kind of surrounded him to protect him from the community because the community was raging, and the families and friends of some of the victims had caught up to him. And the only reason that he didn't get hurt was because of the people that stood in front of him.
Support pouring in from national and international leaders, but just blocks away from the tragedy. At St. Mary the Virgin South Hill Church, which has a majority Filipino congregation, we saw the city uniting.
I want to ensure that as we move forward, the Muslim people, the Squamish people, the Tsleil-Waututh people stand with each and every one of you.
An Indigenous leader, Hindus, Jews, Muslims, and Sikhs packed the pews, singing along to the Christian hymns. Everybody has a story to tell. They were there earlier. Their friend was. They saw the stream of emergency vehicles heading towards this neighborhood.
A lot of grief. I was here earlier. Enjoyed the day. Yeah, it's a bad day for our city.
Now, Blood Services is asking for more donations as our local trauma centers continue to struggle under the weight of the massive influx. But in helping the wounded recover, a broken-hearted city can look for hope. In Vancouver, Jack Rabb, City News.
The tragedy in Vancouver cast a cloud over the last day of the federal election campaign and has led to a wave of messages from political leaders from across the country and around the world. City News Vancouver's Joe Sadowski has that story.
We don't know all the answers yet. We don't know why.
BC Premier David Eby, like everyone else, trying to make sense of the senselessness. Eby voiced his anger and frustration at the act of violence and commended first responders.
It was the police. It was the fire department. It was the workers in the hospitals. Everyone from the people who keep the hospital clean to the lab techs to the doctors and nurses who responded to this tragedy. And I want to say, many of whom themselves are Filipino. May have known people who were out celebrating that day.
Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim says he spent the morning with members of the Filipino community.
Let me just tell you, their strength, even through this unimaginable pain, exemplifies Vancouver's resiliency. Like all of you, I'm completely heartbroken.
And as the city, the Filipino community, and the entire nation looked for answers, Canadians were reminded of the federal election that's right around the corner.
Last night, families lost a sister, a brother, a mother, a father, a son, or a daughter. Those families are living every family's nightmare.
Liberal leader Mark Carney speaking as Prime Minister the morning before an election, addressing a moment of inexplicable cruelty.
To everyone grieving today, we see you, we mourn with you, we stand with you, and we will not let hate win, not now, not ever.
An emotional message from NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, who was campaigning at the festival just a few hours before the attack.
Anna and I just wanted you all to know that our hearts are with you today. All Canadians are united in solidarity with the Filipino community. All Canadians are united with you in mourning the loss of these treasured lives.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre holding the hand of his wife Anna while delivering a somber message at a Filipino church in Mississauga. As Vancouverites flooded the scene with memorials, flowers, and candles, the entire world responded. The French and Ukrainian presidents sending their condolences. King Charles III posted a message of support on X. So did Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., saying the lives lost will never be forgotten. The Filipino people stand together in mourning, in prayer, and in unwavering support. We will do everything in our power to bring comfort, to bring help, and to honor their memory with action.
That was Joe Sadowski of City News Vancouver with that report. The suspect in this case remains in custody, and Vancouver police said they expect more charges to be laid. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Here with David Smith on Election Day, Dave. We made it. We made it.
We did. How about that?
Very exciting. I'll be part of the National News Radio Election Show tonight. Looking forward to that, getting going at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. That will be headquartered out of Toronto. I'll be doing some commentaries throughout the course of the evening and can't wait to see how it all turns out. Hey, David, I was wondering, do you know anybody personally who's running in this election campaign? I do want to say thank you to everyone who puts their name on a ballot, of course, exposing yourself to that sort of scrutiny. and trying to make the country a better place. But do you know anybody who's actually running in the election campaign?
No, not personally, no.
Not personally, but maybe you do. Maybe you do.
Oh.
Kind of just a little bit.
Okay.
For example, I wanted to wish good luck to both a liberal and a conservative tonight. Our good friend Gary Keller is running in the election campaign.
Yes,
right. Gary Keller is vice president of strategy core, and for the longest time was kind of a political pundit in Ottawa. He has worked for cabinet ministers in the past on Parliament Hill, like a really knowledgeable, experienced guy, Gary Keller, who decided quite out of the blue that he was going to. Well, I'm saying I didn't see it coming, is what I should say. He had probably been planning it for a while, but yeah, he's running tonight in the riding called Nipissing-Temiskaming, which is a long way of saying North Bay. Okay,
Yeah.
It's basically the North Bay area of Ontario. So good luck to Gary. That riding used to be held by Anthony Rota, the former Speaker of the House, who, the whole let's invite the Nazi to the House.
He was the guy who invited the Nazi. Yeah.
And Evan Solomon.
Oh, yes. Evan as well. Yeah.
I worked with Evan Solomon in the radio business for a number of years. There's a lot of people, they just kind of know the television Evan Solomon, right? Or they know Evan Solomon and the whole art scandal and the CBC and all of that stuff. I worked with Evan Solomon for a number of years in the radio business. I'm telling you what, Evan Solomon's a nice guy.
He is.
Evan Solomon is a very, very nice, very, very nice, down-to-earth kind of guy. And so he's running in Toronto Centre, which is, I would say, pretty safe liberal territory. Evan Solomon is in pretty good shape, I think, to win the seat in the House of Commons tonight. The last time a Conservative won in Toronto Centre, it wasn't even the Conservative Party. It was still the Progressive Conservative Party at the time, David. It was 1988. I was still in high school.
Wow, that long ago. Eh?
You weren't even born.
No, I was not around. No.
Like people who have had Toronto Centre, like Bill Graham, who was the interim Liberal leader for a number of years. Bob Ray, when he went to federal politics, held that seat for a number of years. Chrysler Freeland represented that riding. Bill Morneau, the former Minister of Finance, was elected in Toronto Centre. And most recently, the Liberals have cruised to victory there. In 2021, they won by 25 points. And the last Liberal MP to hold that was Marcy Ian, who also worked for CTV.
Yeah, another former broadcaster.
Right. It's like, do you have to work for
Pattern
in the news media in order to represent Toronto Centre? Maybe it helps. But yeah. So good luck to everybody. 343 ridings up for grabs tonight in the 45th Canadian federal election. Polls will be closing 9:30 Newfoundland time. Start getting some results after that, about 8 o'clock our time, Eastern time. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow, News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio. The Newsday Panel.
It is our Newsday Panel, and our Election Day Newsday Panel is our Nick McRoberts and Chris Day, who work for the same firm called Hill and Knowlton, but they're on different ends of the political spectrum.
Indeed.
It'll be around your water cooler today. Wouldn't that be
It
fun?
is a heated discussion most mornings.
I bet. So Chris has worked for conservative cabinet ministers in the past, and Nick has worked for liberal cabinet ministers in the past, so this should be a lot of fun. Okay, let's jump right into it. I mean, the leaders are finished. Other than posting on social media, there are no more stump speeches to deliver. There are no more announcements or promises to make. So if you're working on a political campaign, what do you do today, Chris Day?
Well, some leaders may be more finished than others, but we can get into that as we go through here today. But today is all about the get out the vote effort. It is getting those identified voters who you've talked to over the last few weeks, talked to you over the last few months or years in some cases, to the polls so they can vote for you, vote for change in some cases, and vote for your platform in all cases. So you're hoping to seal the deal today. Everything comes down to this.
Yeah, Nick, why don't you jump in there, Nick? Pick up on that.
Yeah. I mean, same as Chris, right? You're out to pull your vote. You're activating your new voter IDs, your existing voter IDs. You're looking at your donor lists. You're making sure that the people you're calling have plans to vote, know where their polling stations are, know how to vote, know what they need to vote. You're doing everything you can. In some cases, driving people to the polls yourself. You're doing everything you can to get your team out to vote. And to your listeners, Rob, I would just encourage anyone who hasn't gone out to vote already to vote. Mm-hmm. That's what today is about.
Sure. Good advice. Good advice. Is one party better than the other at that, Chris? What do you think? GOTV, mobilization, getting people into voting centers?
I mean, some parties have some built-in efficiencies in that their voter base is typically more urban, concentrated ridings. Okay. So that helps a bit in that you can encourage people to use public transit, or you can do buses or arranged rides. Okay. It's harder to do in ridings that are massive, sprawling, it's 8 hours between towns type of things. So it changes depending on where it changes riding by riding, to be honest with you. Okay. But to Nick's point, a lot of people may have heard that massive advanced polling numbers, 7.5 million people, et cetera. Even in the last election, which was a low turnout election, there were more than 17 million votes cast. So there's more than 11 million votes out there, and those folks need to get to the polls today.
Okay. Anything to add there, Nick?
No, I'll just say Canada. We have a very efficient voting machine. Elections Canada is a solid organization and government led organization that helps people vote efficiently and effectively and safely and securely, and that'll be what people see when they go to the polls today.
Okay, should ask you about the news today from Donald Trump, who is kind of saying vote for me, I'll give you lower taxes, superior military, all of this stuff, but also Canada, the 51st state, it makes perfect sense, all of this stuff. So here on election day, there's a posting about our election from the U.S. president. What do you think about that, Nick McRoberts?
It shows that, again, this is not going away. Donald Trump is there. He is a threat. His administration would want to see Canada become the 51st state. And even on election day, he is not stopping that rhetoric. And it demonstrates to Canadians the need to continually, be on alert for his interference in our affairs, and to, build Canada to a place where we can resist the states and be better despite the states.
I wondered when I saw that this morning, Chris Day, that posting from Donald Trump, whether liberals were saying thank you for that. Mm. Thank you for that. What do you think, Chris?
Certainly the Liberals have tried to put Donald Trump on the ballot without him being on the ballot. I don't think that actually helps them that much, in that it's clear that he does not respect the sovereignty of Canada, as the Prime Minister has tried to make the case over the last few weeks. It's clear that call that they did a couple of weeks back didn't do anything to change Donald Trump's mind that Canada might become a state. So I don't know if that helps the argument that Mr. Carney has been trying to make, that he's the best one to stand up to him, because clearly the conversations that they've had to date have not changed his mind. And, we're looking at going into a CUSMA renegotiation with someone who clearly the president hasn't listened to yet. So I wouldn't necessarily be popping the champagne corks if I was a liberal. Okay. I do think that this is a very, very dynamic and unpredictable president that we're dealing with. And I think both parties have laid out plans that are very different in nature, but similarly aligned, that Canadian sovereignty is a key element here, and how we build that out and build wealth and growth for Canadians. People really ought to look at the different platforms and make choices for themselves.
Nick?
To Chris's point, it's
smiles on liberal faces. Smiles on liberal faces to see a posting like that from Donald Trump on Election Day.
No one wants our country's sovereignty questioned. Liberals among them. Liberals don't want to be in a situation where Donald Trump is suggesting that we become the states, no more than conservatives want that. At the same time, it shows that Donald Trump's unpredictability is a crisis. It's a crisis in the states. It's a crisis in North America, in Canada. It's a crisis for the world. And time again, there's been someone that people have turned to in crises, including conservative prime ministers, and that's been Mark Carney.
Okay, when we come back, what will our Newsday panelists be looking for when they tune into the election results tonight? When those results first start coming in from Atlantic Canada, what will Nick McRoberts be looking for? That Prince Edward Islander. What will Chris Day be looking for as those Ontario results roll in, if Ontario is really going to be the kingmaker province as it so often is in the federal election campaign? We'll talk about that when we come back. So first batch of results will come in, as they always do, from Newfoundland and Labrador and Atlantic Canada. You're from Prince Edward Island, Nick. You're pretty in tune with the politics of the region. What are you going to be looking for?
So a couple things, and going to be looking specifically at three ridings. So Central Newfoundland, which is currently held by the Conservatives, Cumberland Colchester, which is currently held by the Conservatives, and South Shore St. Margaret's, which is currently held by the Conservatives. If Liberals are leading in two of three of those ridings, we'll hear about Central Newfoundland first, obviously. If we see a Liberal lead in two of those three, I suspect that will translate into a Liberal government. It'll be too early, I suspect, to determine whether or not that'll be a minority or a majority. Liberals always tend to have good results across the country when results in Atlantic Canada are looking good. In New Brunswick, if Liberals can be competitive in 2 or 4 seats in New Brunswick, and if Liberals continue with their strong showing in Prince Edward Island that we've seen since 2015, I suspect Liberals will be having a good night. Unfortunately, in Atlantic Canada, we don't get to decide minority or majority governments, but definitely some fascinating races to watch there.
Oh, yeah. I think one of the great stories and kind of subplots just in Atlantic Canada is that in Newfoundland and Labrador, 6 ridings, in 5 of them, the Liberal is not running again.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those Newfoundland and Labrador Liberals decided, I'm out of here, when what I would say the writing was on the wall. When people like Marcy Ian were saying, I'm not running again. And when Sean Fraser would say, I'm not running again. Or Anita Ant, there was like one every day. And there was, one every week in Newfoundland and Labrador. So 5 out of 6, the brand new Liberal. But will that hurt the Liberals at all? That's one of the things I'll be looking for from Atlantic Canada. So then moving to the Eastern time zone. I mean, Ontario is so important. So when the results start rolling in Ontario, Chris, what are you going to be looking for in Ontario?
So, I mean, the Ontarians always have the benefit of seeing where, Newfoundlanders and Atlantic Canadians have cast their ballots before Quebec and Ontario polls close. There are literally, to your point, Rob, dozens of ridings in Ontario, and specifically in and around the GTA and along the Highway 401, Canada's busiest highway, that are literally too close to call at this point. So looking at some of those, I'll be looking specifically at ridings like Oakville West, which, to your point, Anita Anand wasn't going to run again because Justin Trudeau was so deeply unpopular. And now, all of a sudden she's running again. So she's facing a pretty stiff competitor, stiff competition there. And that will be one to watch. I'll be interested to see what happens in southwestern Ontario, where the Liberals have not put people in, there have not been a lot of people in southwestern Ontario that have gone into cabinet in the last decade, and that region has felt, like they've been missing out on some of the Liberal love. So it's interesting to see what happens there. And obviously, in Ontario, and specifically in Ottawa, people in the ridings of Carleton and Nepean have for the first time in history, have the chance to directly elect the person who could next be prime minister. Sure. So those are ones to watch as well.
Yeah. I just wonder if there is going to be a sort of Harper-esque performance for the Poilievre Conservatives in Ontario. And by that, I mean 2011. Harper's one and only majority. Conservatives winning in Ajax. Conservatives winning seats in Brampton. Joe Oliver beating Joe Volpe in a riding like Eglinton Lawrence. That had always been Liberal red. Mark Adler beating Ken Dryden in York Center. Conservatives winning in Brampton, Etobicoke, Mississauga, Don Valley, Richmond Hill, Barrie, Vaughan, Thornhill, all of these places. I don't know if it's in the cards, but we'll see. Nick, final thought there?
I think for Ontario, one riding that I'd take a look at, and to your point, Rob, is Toronto St. Paul's, right, where the Conservatives squeaked out a by-election win right at the end of the Trudeau era. And I think if we see strong Liberal numbers there, or even a Liberal flip, it will likely solidify this question of, is it Carney or is it Trudeau? And it may demonstrate a bit of a rejection of Trudeau and an understanding from the electorate that this is a different Liberal Party.
Okay. We'll stop here. We'll pick apart some more ridings to watch, and we'll talk about the turnout. Get a prediction on the turnout, the over-under. We'll do an over-under, okay, on turnout. Over or under 70%. We'll get some predictions from our Newsday panelists here. Let me give you a riding to watch and ask you about this. I'm with you, Nick, on this one. It was one of the ones I had on my list today, as a matter of fact. South Shore St. Margaret's, which is in Nova Scotia. It's a huge riding. I mean, when you look at the map, South Shore St. Margaret's, I mean, it's basically like the western, like the far western side of the Halifax Regional Municipality, and then like you go down, it goes all the way down to Yarmouth, and kind of cuts across half the province. It has a very healthy blue past. It has been held by progressive Conservatives in the past. It has been held by Conservatives during the Harper years. It went for Trudeau and the Liberals during the Trudeau years, but Rick Perkins, who is the Conservative there, took it in 2021. So he's the incumbent. He's running again. And it says to me, if Rick Perkins is not winning in this riding, which has a strong Conservative history, then maybe the Conservatives are going to be in for a rough ride across Atlantic Canada tonight. Nick, would you agree with that?
I would. I'll make the point. So Rick won in 2021 with 43% of the vote, but the NDP were at 18% of the vote then. So I think Rick Perkins' fortunes tonight in South Shore St. Margaret's live or die on a strong NDP showing in that riding, which I'm not sure if there is an NDP running. And so, to your point, Rob, it's leaning blue right now, but I think vote turnout there and the split will be telling.
Okay. Chris Day, I want to ask you, what do you think the over-under is on 70%? Do you think we'll be 70% voter turnout? Will be over that number or under that number by the time all the dust settles on election 45?
I would like to think that we're going to be close to that number. I think that's a reasonable benchmark, just given the interest that we've seen to date, and certainly the issues that are at stake here. I think that we may see a lot more people that have never voted before that come out and cast their ballot, because Conservatives absolutely hope that all those people that have been at their rallies over the last few weeks, and all those people who've never voted before and are putting their hopes and trust in the Poilievre Conservatives, actually show up to vote. And,
I mean, that's a point you were making a long time ago when I remember when Pierre Poilievre had a rally, this is long before the election campaign, Pierre Poilievre had a rally in Ottawa. You went there, someone who's gone to a lot of conservative events, you went to this one, and what struck you was the number of people. This was the first time they had ever been to a political event in their lives. So they're hoping that right? Yeah.
Young
that helps
family, new Canadians, people who've never voted before, people who've never had their voices heard. Those people are coming out for Pierre, and we'll see what that does to overall numbers. And in critical ridings, it can make all the difference.
Okay, the rallies. Yeah, we'll probably be talking about rallies tonight. I'm sure that's going to come up. Rallies. What do you think? Maybe in 45 seconds or less. Have we made too much of the rallies over the course of the campaign, Nick?
Yes and no. We haven't made
Okay.
too much of it in the sense of what a great way to ID voters and activate voters and get people excited. And so to that extent, I think that having these rallies is a good thing and to activate your base. I think this conversation from both sides about rally size and numbers is beneath us. It's too American, and I think it was really a detractor from the campaign.
All right. Wow. By this time tomorrow, it'll all be over, and we'll know who's won.
No, soon enough, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Look, I've loved our discussions over the last 5 weeks. Thank you so much. We'll speak again soon, I'm sure. Chris Day and Nick McRoberts, both at Hill and Knowlton on opposing teams as we go into election night tonight. One's a Liberal, one's a Conservative. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And what's bigger than Election Day? It's Election Day. April 28th, Election Day in Canada, Election 45. And we've talked about it every single day during the campaign from just about every conceivable angle. So today, let's close things out. Let's, bring it home. A very few questions for you today. What party do you think is going to win this thing? Who's winning this thing? What party do you think is going to win this thing? And why? Why do you think that party is going to win tonight when we're all watching the returns tonight? That's one question. With 2 questions. How will you feel if your prediction doesn't come true? How will you feel if you're watching and it's just not going your way? It's not looking good for the party that you want to win this thing. If you want the Conservatives to win, but the Liberals end up winning, how are you going to feel? And vice versa. How will you feel if you want the Liberals to win, but it's the Conservatives who end up winning? 1-833-668-2577. Lines available right now. 1-833-668-2577. Lines available now. And because this is in the news today, let's talk about this as well. Donald Trump weighed in on our election today and once again expressed his desire to have Canada become the 51st state. Quote, unquote, it was meant to be. Quote, unquote, it was meant to be. Donald Trump in a social media post today on Election Day of all days. I mean, what impact do you think Donald Trump has had on this election? Depending on what party wins this election, what party do you think the Trump factor had on this election campaign? We are ready to take calls right now. The phone lines are open right now. Call in line again, 1-833-668-2577. And if you've never called before, just mention that. 2-hour call screener will make your call a priority. I mean, what a ride. What a ride this one has been. I just want to thank you all so much, all of our listeners, anyone who has called over the last, whatever it's been, 35, 36 days. Those of you who have made our radio show part of your routine during this election campaign. Thank you to everyone who called and took part in our show. We count you as contributors to the show. We value your opinions, and we value everyone's opinion, no matter what party you support or what candidate you vote for in this election. Because if you only talk to people you agree with, the conversation can get pretty dull. And that's what we love doing here on Talkback, hearing from Canadians in different parts of the country from different walks of life, so we can all understand a little better what the issues are, what you think the important issues are, the issues that are important to you, the issues that are important for Canada. Because this election, yes, it is consequential, because all elections are consequential. Maybe this one more so than in recent memory. You have this nonstop talk from the President of the United States, his constant trolling of Canada, his musing about wanting to make Canada the 51st state. His administration has imposed tariffs on Canada. We have people out of work in this country because of those tariffs, for example, in the auto sector in southern Ontario. But outside of Trump, I mean, think about all the other issues facing this country. Housing is too expensive. There's a shortage of affordable quality housing. The ranks of the homeless have grown to levels that many of us have never seen before in our lifetimes. Millions of people are struggling with their household budgets, struggling to pay for basics like shelter and food and utility bills and provide a good quality of life for their children. And we have a mental health crisis, a drug crisis, people worried about public safety. The healthcare system's in rough shape. We have demands from our allies to spend more on the military, and a lot more on the military. And how are we going to get money for that? The country is divided. East, west, old, young, urban, rural, men, women, ethnic divides, religious divides, linguistic divides. And over the course of the last 5 weeks, the party leaders have gone all across the country, making a sales pitch to you, trying to convince you they're the person with the right qualities, the right ideas to make progress on these many issues and improve the lives of Canadians. They've run their ads on TV and social media. They've had their debates. They've released their platforms. The advance voting is done, and it all comes down to today, Election Day. One last opportunity for every Canadian citizen 18 years of age and older to participate in Canadian democracy and have a say, express their will about who will lead this country in the years ahead. That is such a blessing. That is such a blessing that we're even allowed to do that in this country, just to be able to vote. Something so many people in other parts of the world don't ever get to do. But we get to do that today. Maybe you've already done it. Maybe you'll do it later today. Go and vote. What do you think the outcome will be? Liberal majority, liberal minority, conservative majority. The pollsters have made all their predictions. Tonight we'll see how they did. Today we want your prediction. Who's winning this thing? How will you feel if you're wrong? What impact did Trump have on our election? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, just mention that. We'll make your call a priority on Election Day. Talkback on News Radio. Okay, give us your predictions on this Election Day. Let's go to Gayleen in Calgary. Hello, Gayleen.
Hi, Rob. Thank you for taking my call. I'm a first-time caller.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Really important day today. And I hope the polls are as wrong in Canada as they were in the United States when they had Kamala out in the lead. Okay. So I'm really hoping that our dear friend Pierre is successful with a majority government. Alternatively, if that fails, I'm in a conundrum because I am so paranoid and worried about the Liberal government in Alberta and what they will do to us people that I would probably encourage Danielle Smith to create a referendum And
really?
I would be part of the 51st state. That's how dramatic I personally feel about the outcome if the Liberals get in. But I think Mr. Trump would probably take care of us in a more decent fashion than Mr. Carney. Yeah, I just it's really tough out here.
Did you ever think, Gayleen, like the words that are coming out of your mouth right now, that you would ever be saying these things? Or is this a recent thing for you?
Never in a million years. I am so patriotic. I am loyal to this country, but I've just seen it, particularly in Calgary and Alberta, where really hardworking people can't afford a home, never mind a house, but just a home to rent.
Right.
The rent is outrageous. There is more unhomed people in the city, and they're working, but they don't have a home. And I don't know, it's just a chronic issue with, I think, immigration policies that have not been managed well, housing policies. And if I think about
do you think the Liberals, let me ask you this, do you feel this way because you think the Liberals have mistreated Alberta? Because the problems that you're talking about, cost of living, expensive housing, homelessness, these aren't just Calgary issues or Alberta issues. I mean, these are issues all across the country, right?
They are.
Yeah.
However, I think what might be, and I don't know, Alberta is based their economy in the oil and gas. And I don't think that's been treated respectfully. A lot of transfer payments out east we're supporting. Right. And I think that's just the impact of that is just people are really frustrated. Everybody is touched either directly or indirectly with the oil and gas industry. And when you have someone like Carney coming in who says on the outside that, he believes in oil and gas, but on the inside we all know he's got a different agenda. And someone that can actually freeze the bank accounts of Canadians because they were expressing their view or supporting a particular cause scares me to death.
Okay, well, he did take a hard line on the Freedom Convoy, that's for sure. Called them insurrectionists and everything. Yeah. Okay, I got to go, Gayleen. Thank you. We'll see how things turn out. I hope you'll call again, and we can talk about the aftermath. Rick in Dartmouth, you're up next, Rick. Hi, Rick. Go ahead.
41st time caller. Anyway.
At least.
At least. Look, I agree with that lady from Alberta. I've been kind of convinced my friends here in Nova Scotia of that very eventuality if the Liberals take power. Now, I guess to me, if you say what's going to happen, it's doom and gloom for both sides. If the Liberals win, it's you're run by a nutcase that thinks nothing of climate change. They just, that's his whole thing's written in his book, blah, 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 blah. If you vote for Poilievre, he's a mini Trump. He's going to do all this other nasty stuff that he never said he was going to do, but, it doesn't matter. So it seems to me we're screwed both ways.
Right.
And I don't know. I can't pick a winner because...
Do you care to make a prediction? How do you think it's going to all turn out? What does your gut tell you, Rick?
My gut tells me that it will be a minority Liberal government. Okay? I mean, I'm certainly not hoping for that.
Right,
but,
okay.
Based on what I've, found in my searches, that's what I feel. Anyway, enough said.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Good to hear from you. Rob in Calgary. I'll tell you a little time to take Rob here. Hi, Rob.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Rob. Who's winning this thing tonight? What party? What's your prediction?
Probably like the last gentleman said, it's probably going to be a Liberal minority government.
Think so. Okay.
I think this is probably the worst election or campaign that I remember, and I've been voting for over 40 years. Well, first of all, how 7 million people voted when the Liberals and the Conservatives didn't even put out their final platform. I mean, what did these people vote for? What was the basis of what they were voting on?
I guess they decided that they knew enough already.
Yeah. Secondly, it literally was a Trump campaign, anti-Trump campaign, whatever you want to call it. And I'm neither pro or for or against him because I'm not American. And I think it's a lot of hoopla,
Do you think it had an outsized impact on the campaign?
Well, of course. That's all they talked about.
Okay.
Even when, and I think you might have mentioned it as well, possibly, even when it started to kind of die down, the Liberals kept bringing it up. They literally, in my opinion, had nothing else to go on. If, it's the old bait and switch, look over there. Well, don't look at our record. Don't look at 7+% unemployment. Don't look at a below 70-cent dollar. Don't look at housing prices doubling in the last 10 years. Don't look at any of that. Look over there. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate. Like I said, it wasn't a campaign about what the Liberals are going to do for us, what the Conservatives, what the NDP are going to do for us. It's like, look at what we're up against down south. And it's very, very sad, I think, for the Canadian people.
All right, but you're going Liberal minority. That's your prediction, Liberal minority.
Yeah,
okay.
And you know what?
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, got to run. Rob, thank you. Thank you for your call. Jason in Kitchener, first-time caller. Hello, Jason.
Hello, Mr. Snow. It's a pleasure to speak with you today.
Yeah, just Rob is fine, sir. Yeah. My father's Mr. Snow. Yep, go ahead. Yep.
That's good. Okay, Rob. Ironically, I'm flying to Washington, D.C. today, so it's going to be interesting to be there. First, I'd like to make 2 points. One, I work in the defense industry, and most of my product is sold in the United States, and I work with a lot of servicemen and women of that great country.
Okay.
And almost all of them apologize for the way their president is acting.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, so that's a point I'd like to make. And these are by and large Trump supporters. So I think that's an important thing to know. It's nothing short of election interference, I think, what he's trying to pull off here. And my second point is I've been to 2 of the Canada First rallies now, one in Kitchener, and yesterday I went to Oakville. I have never seen, I'm 53 years old, I have never seen this type of emotional support for a party and a cause in my entire life in this country. And I have to tell you, the passion for these people, and you see the tears in their eyes just when singing the national anthem. And I get emotional even thinking about it and being part of it. It tells me that there is a hunger and a need for change in this country. And I just don't see the type of passion in the Liberal cause. I don't see it. And when I look around at those rallies, the diverse people in that crowd, you see everything from people with their children to your boomer community and every ethnic race and religion is there. I don't see that at the Carney rallies. It seems to be this older demographic that's there.
Okay.
So I really believe.
So give us a prediction because time is tight. Give us your prediction.
Thank you for letting me speak. I really believe the polls are skewed. This is too big to rig. There's no way it went from like a super majority back in January and then just flipped over. There's no way that conservative voters suddenly flipped their minds to go back to the Liberal Party. I just can't believe it. So my prediction is that we will have, at the very least, a conservative minority government. My hope and prayer is that we have a majority so that we can finally move on from this mess that the Liberals have created over the past 10 years. So
all right.
Thank you
You have made your prediction. Safe travels in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for calling. Great to hear from you. In fact, I was talking to Professor Ian Lee because we have to reschedule our interview for tomorrow with Professor Ian Lee. We're doing a 3-hour post-election talkback tomorrow. We're going to start at noon Eastern time tomorrow with Talkback because we just want to launch right into it and get your reaction to how everything turned out on Election Day. And Professor Ian Lee is in Washington, D.C. today, and he's not coming back until midweek anyway, so he's going to be with us on Wednesday to talk about how everything's shaked out. Just some programming notes for you, for our loyal listeners. Election Day predictions today on Talkback on News Radio. It's Election Day, so we want your predictions. What party do you think is going to win and why? How will you feel if your prediction doesn't come true? Donald Trump at it again. Once again on social media saying, Canada, you should become the 51st state. Canada was meant to be Canada. What impact do you think Donald Trump had on the election campaign in our country? 1-833-668-2577. As we go to Emerson in Calgary. Hello, Emerson.
Good morning, and thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I just wanted to say, I think it's unbelievable that Poilievre, the way he's hung on, the way he has, because of all the outside interference from conservatives, Tynicke, Ford, Houston. I mean, I think it's an absolute disgrace. And you know what I'm proud of? The voters who have said, you know what, you guys have a hidden agenda. Why are you attacking your own people? I mean, it's like you're on the Titanic and people are shooting at you and you just won't fall down. And that's why I admire Poilievre. I think he's the best to beat Trump. And I mean, and one other thing, I don't think Trump's had an effect on this election one way or the other. I just think the polls are lying. I really do believe that, because I see these posters on CTV and CBC. You can tell they're bought and paid for. They can't even look in the camera. So my projection for tonight, I know you don't want to believe that because you're an honest man. I wish they were all like you. I swear to God. If you were running for the Conservative Party, it'd be hands down, it'd be over. But here's the thing. It will be a Conservative minority government with BC tipping the scales in favor of the Conservatives this time.
Okay.
It's going to come down to BC. It will be a Poilievre victory by the skin of his teeth. But guess what? If Carney thinks he's going to hang on to power because he's going to try to rally the troops, too bad, so sad. That's not the way it's going to work, because he doesn't have the confidence of Parliament, and Canadians will bring him down if he tries to do something like that. So I will hold my hope out. I still believe the pollsters are up to something. It just doesn't have the ring of truth. I'm sorry, you don't go from a big majority in January just because you change hats. All of a sudden, the Liberals are pure and ready to govern. No, thank you. I'm going with the Conservatives. Rob, thank you for being a gentleman.
All right, optimistic till the end for the team in blue. Thank you, Emerson. Yeah, yeah, we'll see how it goes, and I'm sure you'll call me when the dust settles. Let's take a first-time caller. Like Randy in Calgary. Yeah, give Randy the priority seating here. Hello, Randy. I'm good, Randy.
Hi, how
What's
are
your
you?
prediction? What's your prediction, Randy?
I think it's going to be a blue wave. I honestly think that.
All right.
Yeah, I believe that the polls are wrong, and I think that they've been trying to sway it to make everybody think that it's going to be a Liberal government. But with the way the people are poised, I believe that they've had enough with Liberals. And Carney, you know, let's face it, the guy, he's just the face. He's the one that's been actually causing all the problems. I don't see it happening. I think it's going to go that way. And honestly, if it doesn't, if Liberals get a majority, I'm like that other lady that called in. I'm 100% on board with Danielle Smith calling, for a referendum.
Some kind of referendum on separation, Alberta separation.
Absolutely. I'm done with Canada if they're going to treat us the way they have been. So the problem is that you got the East is almost like decided. The last time I went and voted, it was already decided before I was walking into the poll station. That's how terrible it is, right? Because it gets determined in East. And on all the West, you can have Manitoba all the way to BC, all blue, and it wouldn't matter because it gets determined in the East. That's not. I don't believe that's fair.
You feel left out, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Let me ask you this: on this desire for like this, you sound like you're kind of at a breaking point with Canada.
Well, I am.
Consider breaking up with Canada, right? If the Liberals win, have you ever felt that way before? Like these, again, I'll ask you the same question that I asked the previous caller, Gayleen. The words you just spoke, like. I'm thinking about, Danielle Smith should call a referendum. Did you ever feel that way before this election?
No. I felt
You're not
that
one of
way
these people who have been on, because there are people who have been Alberta separatists for a while. Wexit and everything else, right? But you're not one of them.
I was always telling my friends that would tell me, we should separate. I'm like, come on, let's not talk stupid. But then after seeing this, and then seeing what bringing Carney in, and when he comes out here and tells us, oh yeah, we're going to build pipelines, but then he goes back to East and he says the opposite. It's to me, it's like ludicrous, like that anybody would even vote for him because he's lied so much in this campaign, and I don't know. I just feel like I've had enough.
You're predicting. You think though, seriously, could be a blue wave tonight?
I believe it will be.
All right,
I do.
Believe it will be.
Yeah.
Fair enough, Randy. Thank you. All right, let's go to Kyle in Listowel. Hello, Kyle.
Mr. Rob, long time.
Yep. Yeah, good to hear from you. What's your prediction for tonight?
I think it's going to be a conservative majority. I don't believe
conservative majority. Wow. Okay.
The polls have been wrong for how many years now? We're supposed to believe them now? I don't think
know.
so. I think
were they wrong when the Conservatives were up by 20 points, Kyle? Were they wrong then?
I think. How long ago was that?
6 months ago.
Well, they could be wrong. I don't know. I think they are wrong. I mean, how do we know what is really going on until we hit the polls today? And I think, just like the United States election, when they said that it was going to be Kamala Harris was going to be the president of the United States, and Trump had nothing to go in, it's going to be the same thing that's going to happen to Canada. They're saying, it's going to be red, red, red. I think you're seeing a lot of people vote blue, and it's going to be a huge blue majority conservative government, like a true conservative person. I am hopeful that it's going to happen. So that's what.
And how will you feel if the exact opposite happens?
Then I'm
it's a liberal
leaving. I'm going to Hungary, where there's a true right-wing prime minister there, a president named Viktor Orban, and I'm going to move there, and I'm going to live my life perfectly fine.
You would not. You're not going to pack up and leave. I don't believe you.
I got my EU passport ready to go. So, yep. Wow. Thanks a lot there, Rob.
All right, look, Kyle. Says he's going to move to Hungary. I don't know. I have a feeling that even if the Liberals win tonight and win big, I bet you Kyle's calling me next week and next month, maybe even next year if I'm around that long. Dave in Calgary. Hi, Dave.
Hello, Rob. How are you today?
I'm good, Dave. Care to make a prediction?
Prediction for tonight? Well, I'm really hoping the polls are wrong. I'm really hoping we're going to have a conservative party.
Okay.
I am very concerned about Canada's thought process. I agree with the last caller that the East calls the election, and I'm also in agreement with possible separation if it comes down to the Liberal Party, which is a complete disaster, and they've had 9 years to screw up this country, and they don't need any more. I would like to remind all Canadians, this is a Canadian election. It's not a United States election. Donald Trump is playing too much of a factor in it, in my opinion.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
You think he's had too much influence on it? Do you think he's had too much influence on it?
I do. Yes.
And I mean, when I put this to my liberal friends, they turn around and they say that, well, see, that's how much of a threat Donald Trump is. This is why we have to take this threat seriously. I think when Donald Trump posts something like that on social media saying, Canada should become the 51st state, it was just meant to be. I think liberals are smiling from ear to ear when they see something like that on election day.
Absolutely. Yes.
Like they have been hammering away nonstop about Trump. You see I don't know if you watch hockey, you watch the playoff hockey. I mean, every second ad is a Mark Carney ad, and the whole ad is about Trump. Trump.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're have to fight Trump.
And
sure.
Pierre Poilievre can take care of that. And the bigger threat to that is the Liberal Party becoming the next conservative, or the Liberal Party becoming the next government, or continuing on. And I think that the West has had enough of the East. We do a lot for Canada, and we're not treated fairly. And
so again, I'm coming back to this because I'm trying to understand this better, because I'm hearing more and more of this.
Yes.
Did you ever feel this way before?
Never
about
in my
separation?
life. Nor would
never
I,
in your life.
Nor would I even thought of that. That's
really,
as one of your other callers said, that's crazy talk. But it's our new reality. That's how much of a threat I believe the Liberal Party is to continue on governing our country. They are a disaster. I cannot believe people are buying into that party after all they have done or not done, however you want to look at it. It's mind-boggling. But again, going back to your comment, these ads are being pounded about Trump, 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 Trump. This is a Canadian election. This is about Canada. It's not about the United States. Yes, we have to be concerned about Donald Trump and his threats, but this is Canada, not the United States.
Hoping for a conservative win. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Will not be happy at all if it doesn't materialize. Thank you. Dave in Calgary to Halifax today. John is there. Hi, John.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. What's your prediction, John? What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I'm not exactly sure about that. I think probably a liberal minority.
Liberal minority, popular opinion today. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really ever listen to this channel. I just happen to be sitting in the car and doing some stuff.
Okay. Well, welcome to it. Welcome to it. You should listen more often. You might learn a thing or two.
Oh, I'm not too sure about that. I think I've heard enough.
Well, we'll let you go then, John. Thanks. Thanks for calling, John. No. We'll just move along. We don't need to be treated like that. Jason in Kitchener is up next. Jason. Hello, Jason.
Hello. I think the polls are wrong. I think the youth and the working class, the tradespeople are underrepresented in it. I also believe that I've been hearing good news from Southern Ontario. Everybody that I've heard that's been to the polls is talking about how many millennials are out there. And the youth is highly favoring the Conservatives and I wasn't sure if they would show up, but I actually have hope today.
You think the younger people are going to break for the Conservatives?
Well, that's everything that's been going on has been saying they're leaning very heavily conservative.
Yeah.
The boomers tend to be leaning. So, but I was just worried the young often don't get out to vote, but it looks like they're voting in Southern Ontario anyways. So that could be a major swing. And if they don't win, if I could afford to, I'd move to Alberta and separate with the rest of them.
Oh, really? Okay. If it turns out it's a liberal win, you will not be happy with that. Why is that? What's wrong with that?
I'm done with it. I can't afford another liberal government. None of us can, but too many people are brainwashed in this country, it seems. But
okay. All right. David, who is the next first-time caller up? Is it Ed? That's the next first-time caller?
Yes, it's Ed in Halifax.
Well, let's go to Ed then and get a first-time caller on. Hello, Ed.
Hey, Rob. How you doing today?
I'm good, Ed. Thanks for calling for the very first time. I'd really like to hear your election prediction for today.
Yeah, well, I'm calling in. I've listened to your show, buddy, but wow. I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory on these conservative people. Listen to your show over the last month, and here we are today. You would think that it's going to be nothing but a conservative majority. Well,
I know.
I'm here.
People are very optimistic about the conservative fortunes. Maybe their hope is misplaced. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, I got some hard reality for them. It's going to be a liberal win tonight, and most likely a majority.
Okay.
I mean, the polls aren't wrong, Rob.
Okay.
They've always been right, close to being right. If they're off, they're off by quite a bit.
They would have to be.
I am one of those people who was going to vote conservative, but changed my mind after Mark Carney became the leader.
Okay.
So there's a lot of those people out there, and it is the Trump factor. And I think for all your callers who are thinking conservative, they're going to be in for a sad reality here tonight. And one last thing, Rob, as an East Coaster, I'm really getting tired of this Western separation thing. They call into your show. They must get together and say, let's call Rob, because they're clearly the minority. Angus Reid did a poll. It was only 20%, which probably it's always been 20% separation out west.
It says 30% if the Liberals win. I read that Angus Reid poll. It was 25% in Alberta as a baseline, like current sentiment. If the Liberals win, it goes up to 30%. Same as it is in Quebec, and it's a little bit stronger in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, so they're not separating. I have friends who live in Alberta, and they're like, this is ridiculous talk that you're hearing on the radio and stuff. So I just want to say one thing, though, Rob. Those people, they tell us Easterners, You don't do anything but vote Liberal. Well, no, we voted for Harper and we voted for Mulroney. Rob, what have they voted for the last 50 years? Nothing but conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if they put some Liberals in and we're on the government side, maybe they might get something that they want. So for all those people out west, stop whining and complaining. We've got the same problems as you. We don't threaten about leaving Canada. We're proud and we love our country. Stop talking about this separation talk. I'll leave it at that, Rob.
All right. I love the passion. Ed thinks there's going to be a lot of disappointed conservatives tonight, and he's not happy with all this talk of separation that he hears. He was kind of parked with Poilievre there for a while. I would call him a Parker and not a convert. There are Parkers and then there are converts. Kind of parked with Poilievre, I think, while Trudeau was still there. But now that Mr. Trudeau is gone and all of this stuff about Trump, he is voting for Carney and the Liberals. Thank you, Ed in Halifax. Why don't we stop here, because the next caller would only have about 30 seconds, and we'll reset and take a deep breath, and then we'll be back right after the latest breaking news with another full hour of Talkback on Election Day, and we're gathering your predictions. What party do you think is winning this thing tonight?
It's time to talk back
on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
and have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. Our last one for this federal election campaign, and we have picked apart the campaign 8 ways from Sunday, upside down and inside out. So today we're just gathering predictions. What party do you think is going to win and why? And how will you feel if your prediction doesn't come true? Also, Donald Trump weighed in on our election today once again. And on Election Day, no less, Canada should become the 51st state. It was meant to be, he said. If you want to weigh in on the impact Donald Trump has had on this campaign, feel free to do so at 1-833-668-2577 to Jameson in Calgary. Hello, Jameson. Thanks for waiting. You're up next.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, Jameson.
Hi. I think it's going to be a Liberal majority.
Liberal majority. Why do you think that?
I mean, right now the polls, Liberal majority are winning, and I think, I just think that's how it's going to be. I've never voted before in Canada elections, and I'm also American, and I'm living in Calgary, working right now, so I'm dual citizen.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've never voted in U.S. elections, never voted in any Canadian elections. But as for my prediction, I think in Canada, it will be a Liberal majority.
Okay. And how do you feel about that? You okay with that?
Yeah. I mean, as kind of like a young worker, I don't think it'll affect me too much, but I do have a preference. I would like it probably to be conservative, because I don't think the last 10 years, especially in 2016, has been good. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're saying you would be okay with a Liberal majority government, though? Is that right?
I wouldn't mind it, because I do plan on going back to the United States.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm starting up a career there. So I've been pretty much bouncing between Canada and the United States working.
Right.
I'm just like a week away from turning 30, and I have to stay somewhere. So probably next year I'll be in Indiana or Michigan or something. So yeah.
All right. Safe travels to you. Liberal majority government, says Jameson. That's his prediction. Let's go to Halifax, Nova Scotia. John is up next. Hello, John.
Hello.
Hi, John. Good to hear from you, sir. Do you want to make an election prediction for us?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say one thing is that, we've had a Liberal government for 10 years now, and people have been, in the last 2 or 3 months, have been saying, let's get rid of the Liberals. We've had enough of them, and they've done what they did. And just because a new man comes in to become the Liberal leader, Canadians are changing their mind. That doesn't make sense to me. To me, we got the same people in the Liberal society that are still representing with Trudeau. And so why are people thinking that it should be the same as the Liberals when we've got the same people there in back of Carney? Now, I'm not saying Carney's not a good man. Maybe he is. But I think it's time that there should have been a change in the government after 10 years and give somebody else a chance and see what kind of a job they can do. So to me, I hope to me personally, it's going to be a minority government. Nobody's got a majority, because the way it's going right now, to me, it sounds like a minority government. And who becomes the minority, I don't know. It's hard to tell because it is very close. But I'm hoping that the Conservatives really got a chance really to see what they would do, how to run the country. And that's my prediction.
You think the country needs a change? Okay, and they're hoping for a minority. Okay.
I think it's better if it is a minority than one government can't get away with doing what Trudeau did for the last 10 years.
Okay. Well, he did that with back-to-back minority governments as well. I should point that out, right?
Yeah, that's right. He did it but he finally, even his own people wanted to get rid of him at the end there, because they knew that it was going to be like, 35% for Conservatives that were going to win the next election, this election coming up. And to me, give the other guy a chance. I think the other guy a chance. Anyway, you have a good day.
All right, thank you. Let's go to Eric in Halifax. Hello, Eric. You're up next, Eric. Make a prediction for us, Eric.
Carney in a photo finish.
In a photo finish. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that mean a minority? You think it'll be a minority then, Eric?
Yeah, minority, yeah. And we'll be doing the same thing 4 years from today. We'll be bickering, fighting over why we vote for that guy and all that. We're a bunch of hypocrites in Canada. We don't, we say we're going to do this, and the next minute we change our minds. And I said it there a couple of weeks ago. If Mark's last name was Trudeau, we wouldn't even have this election. And, because they all made promises, and they can't keep them. And 6 months down the road, they'll forget who you were when you voted for them. So it's really oh, my God, it's just so frustrating. I'll be glad when it's over.
You'll be glad when it's over. I don't think you're the only one there. I believe David expressed a very similar sentiment with us this morning. Yeah.
I think the Maple Leafs have got a better chance of winning the Stanley Cup than Paul Villarm being the Prime Minister.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, the Leafs are looking pretty good. I have to give them that. But
well, anyway, that's just my prediction. And
all right.
Fair enough, Eric. We'll have this conversation 4 years from today, saying, well, why'd we do this and why'd we do that? Because we're so hard to please. And the poor souls that gave up our freedom, they're probably turning over in their graves.
All right, Eric. Thank you. Good to hear from you. And just like that, hour number 2 of Talkback is off and running on election day. To Cambridge, Paul is up next in Cambridge. Hi, Paul.
How you doing this fine day?
I'm good, Paul. I'm just, I'm dying to know your prediction for tonight.
My prediction, well, first off, my prediction is that the marketing companies like Ecos and whatnot failed in their job. They tried to make it look like it was going to be a Conservatives majority, a slam dunk, and it was all over, nothing left to do but cry over the results. But now media is saying these races are too close to call. So that makes me wonder, how accurate was the marketing companies that were putting out these numbers? Because they're not research companies, they're marketing companies. My prediction is, my hopes are a Conservative majority government. I haven't run into anybody yet that will even admit to voting Liberal. Maybe it's just that all my neighbors are conservative and all my friends are conservative and all the people I talk to are conservative, but I haven't met anybody yet who actually says that they're going to vote Liberal. Tell you a little story. A friend of mine at work one day, he calls me up and he says, come up to my office. And I go up to his office and he says, you're not going to believe this. He says, I was golfing on Friday. And I said, no, I know you golf every Friday. And I said, no. He says, I was out in the greens, I was golfing, and I ran into a guy that actually admitted that he voted Liberal, and he wanted to fight over it. The polls, forget the polls. There's only one poll that matters, and that's the one today.
Okay.
We're going to see a conservative because Canadians can't afford.
All right. And how will you feel
years.
if that's not the case? How will you feel if that's not the case?
Well, if it's a minority government, I think the Conservatives can do quite well negotiating with the Bloc and. There's nobody else. Is there? Wait. There's what do they call that other orange party?
Yeah. Well,
I'm not sure if they're going to be a party.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
I don't think
What if the Liberals win? How will you feel if the Liberals win?
I'll be packing up my household and moving someplace else. I don't know where.
Okay.
Hey, listen, seriously, my son
at your
and
age, really?
We have discussed it. I talked to my family. My family is what's most important to me. And a conservative win means a good future for them. A Liberal win means Canada, we'll be part of the States within a very short period of time. If it is a minority government, I'm hoping that the Conservatives can work with the Bloc and keep things going. If it's a Liberal, the Liberals have burned bridges with the Bloc. The NDP will be non-existent. So I don't know who they're going to get to back them up on any crucial.
I don't know. I think there'd be lots of room for negotiation between the Liberals and the Bloc. If it were to come to that, I think they would see lots of things that they could agree on. But Paul, I got to move along. The phone lines are jammed today, as you can imagine. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Brian in Calgary. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
Hi, Brian. What's your prediction, Brian?
My very realistic prediction is that it's going to be a conservative majority government, but it's only going to be a very small majority government in the sense that I'm predicting that they'll get a majority government with about plus 10 seats. That's how close I'm predicting it. And the reason why that I say that it's going to be a slim conservative majority government is because you look at the advanced polls, and when you consider out of the 40 million people living in Canada and how many of those people are 18 years of age and older and are old enough to vote, to have that kind of voter turnout at the advanced polls tells me that people are fed up. That's what my gut instinct is telling me. And of course, my spouse and I voted today. We voted Conservative. And to me, anything less than a majority government is bad news for Canada. And I'm not going to get too far off topic here, but I was listening to the other calls while I was waiting in the queue, and I was listening to this one feller that was called in from Nova Scotia, and I'm actually originally from Newfoundland. I'm a Newfoundland expat living in Alberta. I moved here 20 years ago, and I moved here because I was sick and tired of living in Atlantic Canada, where provinces tax people to death, and there's small governments, small market provinces that don't know how to manage their spending, and of course, Westerners here in Western Canada have every right to gripe about things, because when you think about the social transfers that go from Alberta and Saskatchewan coffers out east, it's like we're the ones that have been driving the economy in Canada for quite a number of years, so we got every right to complain. Because people here in people in Western Canada don't get their values represented in Ottawa, especially with this Liberal government.
All right, so let me run this by you. Let's say it's not what you predict it's going to be, which is a smallish conservative majority government, 172 seats. 172 seats to form a majority. You think the Conservatives will perform slightly above that? What if it's not that? What if it's the Liberals who win this thing, either with a minority or a majority? How will you feel about that?
Well, to me, it's like it doesn't matter whether it's a minority or majority government. For the Liberals, it's bad news for Canada, because you take for the last 4 years. Like I know the NDP is not showing very, very well in the polls, but you can darn well bet that at the end of the day, if there's a Liberal minority government, that my prediction is that the Bloc and the NDP will constantly keep propping up the Liberals, because that's the only reason why that Trudeau was able to survive for 4 years, is because Jagmeet Singh and his gang kept propping them up, when realistically they should have had him overthrown.
Okay, so you won't be impressed, needless to say. Thank you, Brian. We've got to run. Thank you for your call. Make your election prediction here on Election Day here on Talkback. So let's go to Lorraine. First-time caller, Lorraine. Is that right?
Yes. Hi, Rob. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, good to hear from you. Lorraine, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I'm holding out hoping and praying, and God can move mountains, and the Conservatives will get in.
Okay,
I just
that's
want to
what you're hoping for.
Quick...
What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think it will. I'm going to stay positive. God can move mountains, so
okay.
I think it will be the Conservatives. I'd like to make a point on this Trump thing. The people who are voting Liberal because of the Trump issues, they're not understanding that they're playing into Trump's hands. That's exactly what he wants to happen, and he's
how so? Why do you say that?
Because I think Carney's going to just do whatever Trump wants. And he's come out and said he wants Carney to win. Why would he want Carney to win unless he thinks he's going to, get away with whatever he wants with us?
Okay.
Also, one more very quick point. I think that our voting system is very corrupt, and until they change the seat system in this country, it's never going to be a fair vote.
I see.
Every province should have the exact same amount of seats if it's going to be a fair vote.
Okay. Well, it goes by population. I mean, that's how they work it, right?
Well, like when Trudeau won by seats, but not by popular vote.
Right.
Because there's so many more seats in the East than there is in the West, and
because there are so many more people in the East than there are in the West.
But pardon me.
Because there are so many more people in the East than there are in the West.
Yeah, I understand that, but at the same time, like popular vote would have changed the outcome in the last election.
Okay. So you would favor something like, I don't know, electoral reform or something. You would like to see some kind of electoral reform then?
Yeah, I would. And I'm surprised nobody else, I've never heard anybody else talking about it, because I really feel like
it hasn't been a big issue in this election campaign. Okay, thank you, Lorraine. Yeah. Good to hear from you. Let's try Jared. Tried to call in a couple of times here. Let's take Jared's call next in Calgary. Hi, Jared.
Hey, so honestly, with this election, I think Quebec's going to hold the cards for this.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. That'd be interesting.
I'm hoping that the Bloc and the CPC don't split the vote too hard and start giving Liberals win there.
You may be onto something there. I mean, if it comes down to the difference being, say, a Liberal minority or a Liberal majority, that could very well hinge on what happens in Quebec. Yeah. I mean, the Bloc is on... I live in Quebec, so I've been following this very closely. The Bloc is really on a knife's edge. Like a slight drop in the percentage of people who are Bloc voters could mean the Bloc is decimated in the election campaign. But even a slight increase in their vote could mean big gains, big seat gains for the Bloc in Quebec, which would most likely come at the expense of the Liberals and maybe hold the Liberals to a minority government. I mean, it could go either way, maybe on 3 or 4 percentage points in the province of Quebec. I mean, that's how kind of close it is there.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my big worries. I'm thinking it's going to be a Liberal minority.
Liberal minority, okay.
But, yeah.
Now, you're in the West, too. How do you feel about another Liberal government in where you are?
Oh, you know what? To be honest, both me and my wife are fortunate enough to be able to work overseas.
Oh, yeah.
And we're already making plans. We
Wow.
can't afford any other government. Like, we don't, it doesn't really matter who wins. We're already making plans.
You're already making plans anyway.
Yeah.
You are.
And it sucks to say, like, I'm voting for hopefully a better Canada, but yeah, things have gone really bad here, and the opportunities aren't what they used to be.
Okay, Jared, thank you for calling. Good to hear from you today. So there's a couple of free lines available there if you want to get in on the home stretch and the last talkback of this federal election campaign. I mean, next week and, I guess for the rest of the week, next week. It's only Monday. Next week, it will be all about reaction to the election campaign and what everyone thought of it. Let's go to Ernie in Kitchener up next here. Ernie. Hi, Ernie.
Hey, Rob. Are you ordering pizza today?
We'll be ordering pizza today. Yes, as a matter of fact.
Are you doing your election pizza thing, or?
Yeah, doing the election pizza thing. I mean, that's a newsroom tradition, even though where I am, it's like a news bureau of one, but I'll be at it. I'm doing a double today. I get off here in about 20 minutes, and I'll be taking the dog out for some exercise, crashing down for a nap, having some pizza, and then back at it tonight with the big news team in Toronto, and looking forward to it.
There we go, Rob. There we go. I like that. You know what? I got a feeling there's going to be a blue wave, and everyone's going to be, I think, a bit surprised. The young people are going to come out. The stuff that the polls don't necessarily tell us about the kids, as long as they, get off their video games today. But I feel the young crowd is going to come out and surprise Canada, and they're going to be the big difference changer in this election. And who would have thought, Rob? Like, all of a sudden, the young people are voting blue and the older people are voting red. Like, what? Isn't that a complete flip flop of 10 years ago? And
doesn't usually go that way. No, doesn't usually break that way.
And I know they always say that you can't really depend on that vote. I think this time change is going to happen, and how desperate they are, that us as Canadians, they are going to enlighten us and give people like me hope again in this country, and believe that it's worthwhile fighting for it and sticking around, Rob.
Okay. All right, Ernie. Thank you for your call. Let's go to Waterloo up next and get an election prediction. Will, you're on the air. Hello, Will.
Hi, Rob. How's it going?
I'm fine, Will. What do you think is going to happen?
Good. I think the Liberals are going to get a minority, but I want Polyev to get a majority. And the reason I think that is the young folks go out and vote, and they mostly are going to vote for Liberal. Like, I've known a few older folks and asked them, why are you voting for Carney? And they said, well, he looks distinguished.
Okay.
And in order for Polyev to win, you need to have the young ones come out, because they already have their pensions. They already bought their houses. They don't have to feed kids, And they forget that Carney brought in that tax. And you don't think he's going to bring something like that? Like, I just don't understand why people want another 9 years of that, And the CBC's been pushing for Polyev because he's going to defund them, and they're not going to be able to get the trial anymore. So they've really been against him. So he's been on an uphill. I really like the guy. He gets the majority.
Right. But you don't think that's going to happen. You think it's the Liberals to lose right now, by the sounds of things.
Unless the young folks come out.
I
hope they do.
Okay.
If they don't come out, then he's got it. Paulie's got it.
All right, Will, thank you for your call. Going to move along a bit of an upset cell phone bill there, or cell phone quality there. Michael in Calgary up next. Hi, Michael.
Rob. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Michael. What do you think is going to happen tonight with the election?
Well, when you look at Carney, if people really think about it, perhaps people will think about it more today. He gaslit the British people about Brexit. He basically said the pound is going to drop considerably, house prices are going to drop 25%, and half the economy is not ready. And he was absolutely, completely wrong on that. Also, he was responsible for 11% inflation. So the media have been pushing like mad ever since he got onto the scene. And I think people are, over the last month or so, are going to come to their senses that he's not a great guy as the media have been pushing him.
Okay.
Also, he's been peddling this net zero on climate. He just can't let go of it. But that more applies to our economy. In the U.S., grew 18% in the last 10 years in the GDP, whereas in Canada, it's grown 1.7%. And the reason that Trump would like to have him in is because Canada's economy will get weaker, and it will be easier a target for America to come after us.
Okay.
Because if you look at the economic results of the Liberals, They're absolutely dismal. So I feel to myself also the betting odds are in favor right now. A great economist, Chris Berard, he actually predicted accurately that Trump was going to win the election, and he based it partly on the betting odds because he did a paper on it, and he says it's very similar to the economics. And right now, the betting odds are about 70%.
Well, right now, at Polymarket, right now...
Conservatives have a pretty good chance tonight. I can't guarantee you.
Okay.
But it's probably going to be much better than the polls and the media who have tried to control the whole situation ever since the get-go.
Okay.
But there's a very big groundswell of wonderful people that realize the disaster that Canada will face if we have another 10 years of the Liberals.
Okay. So you really do think that Conservatives can win?
I think so. There's a lot. I mean, it's a very good chance they can win.
Okay.
If you look at the meetings they've had, the people have shown out in filling warehouses and aircraft areas, and also the fact that these people are very serious, and these rallies actually do help a lot. They help Trump a lot in his case, and a lot of people are very seriously thinking, Canada is at risk. It's a shame that Pierre didn't say, when they asked him, they said, well, what do you think the biggest risk is for Canada? He should have really said the biggest risk is having Carney and the Liberals in government for the next 4 years. That's the very biggest risk for Canada.
All right. Thank you for your call. Yep, good to hear from you. Just on the, on the betting markets, I mean, the one that's getting a lot of attention is Polymarket, Poly market.com, Polymarket. I mean, you can look there. This is where people can place bets on the election. And right now, on who's going to be the next prime minister after the election, who's going to be the prime minister of Canada after the election, Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre. Mark Carney, 80%, 80-20, Carney over Poilievre. Next government of Canada, almost 60% Liberal majority, 22% saying Liberal minority, and just 6% saying Conservative majority, 16% saying Conservative minority. Again, that is at polymarket.com. John in Waterloo. Hello, John.
Hi, Rob. First-time caller.
Appreciate that, John. I really appreciate it.
I voted today for my local Conservative candidate. I don't really think he's going to win. He was a parachuted-in candidate. But I think that our country tends to be left-leaning in general.
Okay.
And the left has been spreading its vote between the NDP, the Liberals, and the Green for, I think, a number of elections. I think this time that vote is going to be consolidated with the Liberals. And I think the NDP are going to take a hit, the Green are going to take a hit, but the Liberals are going to pick up that vote. And unfortunately, because
that'll be the difference maker? Yeah.
Pardon me?
And that could be the difference maker, do you think?
I think so. I think this time, as a result of that consolidation, the Liberals, if it's not a majority, will certainly be a very high seat count. And that would mean probably the Liberals will have to make a deal with the Quebec Party.
The Bloc,
As much as I'd like to see the Conservatives win, I just have that feeling that the vote is going to go Liberal.
You got a feeling the vote, and how do you feel about that? I mean, you said you voted for the Conservative candidate in your riding, but
I'd like to see a change in the government. It's time. The Liberals were there for almost 10 years. It's time for a change. I mean, if Carney wins, it's going to be the same Liberal backbenchers, the same backroom boys that are running the government, and that's not going to change any. So I think it's just time to give the country a change in direction and some new blood.
Okay, fair enough. We'll see what happens. John, thank you for being a first-time caller. Hope it's not the last time. I'm glad you could get through today. a very, very busy talkback. We'll end it there. David, we made it.
Yes. Yes, we did.
We made it. 35, 36 days, I think. We've talked nonstop pretty much about the federal election campaign.
36 and a half, yeah.
Right. Here it is. It's finally the big day. That's just incredible. So again, just a programming note, national election show tonight on your news radio stations in Halifax and Kitchener. It is out of Toronto, in Calgary, Vancouver as well. I'll be part of that tonight, part of a big team. I don't know how many people are involved in this tonight. It has to be thousands. And I am but one tiny cog in a very big wheel. So, but I'm looking forward to making my contribution. So that will start once the polls close in Atlantic, Canada. I believe we're starting at around 8 o'clock Eastern time. And my plan is to go until about midnight. I believe the show actually ends at about 1 o'clock Eastern time. I might be knocking off a little bit before that because I have to work tomorrow as well. Tomorrow, Dave, the plan is 3-hour talkback.
All
That'll
calls.
Be fun, eh?
All calls all the time for 3 hours.
Yeah. So no breakdown, no Ian Lee tomorrow, no Newsday panel. We just want to hear from the callers for 3 straight hours and get your reaction on how it all turned out once we know how it all turned out. So that'll start at noon Eastern tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to talking to you and getting your reaction to it all. The latest breaking news coming up next on News Radio